Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraful anbiya wa mursaleen. Sayyidina wa habibina al-Mustafa. Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyul azim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Black Imams Roundtable. I'm Imam Faheem. I'm your temporary host, like very temporary. Just wait for Imam Amin to sign on, as well as my other respected Imams, inshallah ta'ala. Well, we'd like to thank you all in advance for tuning in. Tonight's topic, as you can see, is that we're talking about the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. It's poised to be a very interesting topic, inshallah ta'ala, and one that's always in need of discussion, clarification, and elucidation. So we do appreciate you joining in. As I'm doing my intro, I would just like to, one of the ways that I came to Ahlus Sunnah from what I thought was Ahlus Sunnah, being with a specific group, and where they used to make the claim that they were Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and come to find out, and like many people who are, making a discovery, inshallah, that they were actually just a small sect claiming to be representing mainstream Islam. All right, and as you study more, you find out that there's a lot of distortions, a lot of half-truths, and a lot of straight-out lies and misappropriations with respect to what we're supposed to believe as Muslims. So we're going to cover a lot of this tonight, inshallah ta'ala. We, as always, you're amongst family when you talk with us. So we welcome questions, we welcome criticisms, we welcome concerns, suggestions, anything that you have, inshallah ta'ala. We definitely appreciate it. So the topic, as we said, is going to be the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And I think for most of the people that we have here, we're kind of, we kind of preachers to the choir, so to speak, So most of the people who ride with us, already Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Now, maybe we'll get a few people a few stragglers who will come in, inshallah, and, want to discuss. Yeah, and y'all already know how we get down these round tables. We start out with a topic, and we start out talking about something, then, we might just start going off, inshallah. Tonight's roundtable is new for me, as starting it off. That's really not my forte. If you've been following us, I'm just kind of quiet. Assalamu alaikum, Imam Naeem.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my most beloved and esteemed brother.
Alhamdulillah, how you doing, Sheikh?
Good, alhamdulillah.
Okay,
I want to mute myself because you were, introduction, and you the host, and I know you're going to try to back out, so I'm going to mute myself right now.
I was just about to say, you came to bail me out right on time, man. I was just about to mention, I'm usually just quiet, sitting back. So now Imam Amin's all of a sudden, man, he got sick. He got a bathroom pass. I don't know what he's doing, but he just set me up, Yeah, but we were mentioning, really talking about this topic. Oftentimes, people, they get on us about this topic, and they always kind of insinuate that why are we always talking about Aqidah? Why are we always, why this is dividing the ummah? But it's very important because of how many people are not really aware of what the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is, and a lot of distortions that are taking place. And then, once people who are learning or make an attempt to learn it, and then they go hear all of these, other speakers, with these flowery talks and, with their versions, and it's very important because some of this stuff, it's just wrong belief. Sometimes it's just bid'ah. and sometimes it's outright kufr, you know. And you know, the beliefs that we have are the most precious things that we have, inshallah. So we gotta be, you know, diligent in preserving them, you know. So I don't know how we're going to discuss this, but I think some of the key ways for us to understand, you know, the beliefs of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is to understand what they're not, and some of the code words, you know, and some of the code things that we see. And I think the first main one that many people may not be aware of is when you see these books and they talking about three categorizations of Tawheed. That is like the main giveaway, you know. And you know, and many people may say that, what do you mean? You know, this is Tawheed. They're talking about Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah, and Asma wa Sifat. That is a dead giveaway for Wahhabi doctrine, you know. And we just got to be clear about it. We're going to be clear tonight, you know, inshallah. You know, we might step on some toes. We might lose some viewers, but hey, it is what it is, man. You know, we black imams, we could deal with that kind of stuff. People been taking jabs at us all our whole tenure, you know what I mean? So, but that's one of the things that even, you know, people who claim Ahlus Sunnah will read these books and read some of these names. And the other thing is, to some of these names, you know, one of the most important things that when we are studying Aqidah is that we also have to look at what names are being presented to us and also what time period they lived in. You know, that's very important, because sometimes people have deceptively, you know, promoted personalities, and they won't tell you like the whole thing, like what they where they live, and then they might tell you that such and such is the, you know, the Sheikh of Islam and this, that, and the other, and they'll leave out certain things like what he really was on. You know what I mean? So you have to pay attention to some of those things, and definitely pay attention to glossy colored books, you know, shiny books, you know, with these covers, and when you read them, they're covering the same topics. They're covering the same topics, you know. But you know, with the Aqeedah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the most important section is about the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where a lot of people, they get it wrong, because you have people who are telling us, and we've heard some of these testimonies ourselves, you know, where people say that the belief of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is that with respect to Allah's attributes, is that they're all literal. They're all literal, you know. So, and when you understand that concept, you know, when you understand something that's literal, that it only has one meaning. A literal meaning is only one meaning, you know. With respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what he's attributed with, especially those attributes of wajh and yad and the like, you know, they can carry possibly more than one meaning. And the exact meaning, what Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah believe, is that we don't know the exact meaning. You know what I mean? It can carry any of those meanings, you know, and you know, you have to put it in context. You have to put it according to the Arabic language and all those other rules and constructs that we use. But the literal meaning is the one that is not befitting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, and that's just something, once we grasp that, you know, we get through a lot of things, among others, you know. But we're going to discuss that in detail. Our Sheikh, Imam Amin, as soon as he finished stalling, you know, he'll come and help us out. So he's here, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, Imam.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm trying to.
Assalamu alaikum, Imam.
Don't get scared now.
No, it ain't scared, man. Your screen is upside down.
I'm trying to, I'm trying to work on this iPad thing, and I don't know, I'm getting new at it.
I don't know if it's just me, but you sound low.
Give me a second while I try to work this out.
Well, we know where the fundraiser is going tonight, man. Get you some new equipment.
Now I'm on.
Yeah, that's right. You know, imams be talking that black stuff, but get on a black imams roundtable with all types of janky equipment, picture all upside down and stuff like that.
Is it working now?
Yeah, you're sitting sideways right now. You're sitting sideways.
I'm sideways now?
Or at least on my maybe it's me. I don't know.
All right, I'm good now, right?
You good over here.
Okay, yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good.
All right. I'm sorry for interrupting. Got a lot of things going on, you know. Okay, mashallah, where we at?
Okay, I just kind of did a basic uh, intro, what we covering, what the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is, and I just kind of covered like how we identify what is not, some code things, And one of the main things is when we see this categorization of Tawheed, and I just kind of left it at that. I was basically mumbling, man, till you came through. So
what I had in mind, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Your voice is low, Imam. Everybody's saying it's low.
Can you hear me now? Is my voice?
We heard you before, but it's just real low.
Is it loud now? Allah. All right, well, I'm going to get rid of this. I'll be back. Imam Naeem, you go ahead, inshallah. I know this is your subject.
Nah, don't throw it up. This is your subject. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa afdalu salatu wa tamu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa radiyallahu ta'ala ana sadati tabi'in wa ulama al-amalin wa a'immatul arabatul mujtahidin wa muqallidihim ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Alhamdulillah. I'm not going to try to go in too deep in the beginning with regards to this topic, because I prefer to let Imam Amin Muhammad take the lead on how he wants to get into this topic. But I will begin by saying that, contrary to what a lot of people say, this is an extremely important topic. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked by Angel Jibril, "Akhbirni anil iman," tell me about what iman is. And he gave him the articles of faith, the 6 articles of faith: that you believe in Allah, that you believe in his angels, his books, his messengers, the last day, and the qadr, the khairihi wa sharrihi. It's good and it's bad, right? The science which explains or breaks down iman or belief is aqidah. Is one of the names for it, or ilmu tawheed, or usuluddin, right? So aqidah is one of the names of the science or the knowledge that breaks down or that teaches us what this iman is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. And at the end of that well-known hadith that I'm pretty sure all of you have at least heard once before, is when this man left, who we know was Angel Jibril. When he left, he said, "Ya Umar, atadri mani sa'ili? Umar, do you know who the questioner was?" And he said, "Allahu wa rasuluhu a'lam." Allah and his messenger know best. He said, "Hadha Jibril, atakum yu'allimukum dinukum." That was Jibril, Angel Jibril. He came to teach you your deen. So this information, this knowledge that we are talking about today is part of the deen. It's the main part of the deen. It's, as we said, it's the usul, or the foundation of the deen. And just like all things, all knowledge, all issues, you got some things that is not that important in the issue, but then you have some things that if you don't have it right, you don't have it at all. And it's this way, especially with regards to aqidah or beliefs or belief. And, this is the Black Imams Roundtable. And so we are primarily addressing and talking about and talking to Black people, primarily, not excluding anybody, but primarily. And if you look at Black people, i.e. African Americans, we have been systematically targeted with pseudo-Islamic movements consistently throughout our history and sojourn here in this country. There are movements who have the title Islam or they go by the name Muslim, but they contain in their doctrine bugs. You know, like in computers, you have like malware or spyware, you know, and at a certain time or when something's triggered, you know, that thing is released and it freezes your hard drive or it crashes your system. We have these type of things with a lot of these movements. A lot of times these things look Muslim, they sound Muslim, they use Islamic verbiage. Sometimes they quote the same verses that everyone else quote, but they assign meanings to these verses, or as Imam Faheem was saying, to these attributes that was not understood by anybody before them, or at least during the time of the Salaf. They give different meanings for it. So it's like malware. Your computer's working fine, it's functioning properly, then something's triggered, and then, you know, your computer or your phone starts acting funny. And as we wait for our Imam to come back, one of the things that I think is like a key, it's like you always have to have this in your mind, the quality of Allah, where Allah is mukhalifu lil hawadith. He is different or opposite than his creation. If when you are learning about Allah, you read something about Allah, you hear something about Allah, if you have that as part of your filter in your mind, like, wait a minute, this thing, what he just said, is just like creation got that. So you automatically know that can't be Allah. As Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, you know, whatever comes to your mind, Allah is other than that. Because Allah is outside of his creation. He cannot be contained in his creation. And so therefore, you know, the human intellect is part of Allah's creation. So there's no way that the human intellect can completely understand and encompass the reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's extremely important. So we've been targeted. And I think we have to be honest about that. You know, a lot of people conveniently on many issues, and this is one of those issues, we conveniently bury our heads in the sand, and we don't want to admit the truth that a lot of us have had versions of Islam or strains of Islam that have been marketed to us purposely. We've been targeted. You know, just like anybody, if somebody wants to sell you something, you know, they have marketing campaigns. People sit and they figure and they ask the person who's selling the product, who is your target audience? Who do you want to sell this thing to? And once they communicate that, then the marketing expert knows how to make up or put together the marketing campaign. Okay, we're going to use these keywords, or these people are like this, so we have to come at them like this, or these people have an aversion to this, so we can't use those words, we can't, you know, invoke that. And so with us, it's the same thing. And so because, you know, they can't stop Islam. You know, the Prophet ﷺ already told us about the last days and the signs of the last days. So they can't get rid of Islam, but they can try to delay it. They can try to taint it. They can't change the Quran. They can't change the Quran because the Quran is protected by the hearts of those who memorize it. So you can corrupt the printing press, you could do all of that stuff, and within a matter of a few moments, you have new, fresh copies of the Quran that have been written from the memories of the hearts of people who have memorized the Quran. So you can't, you know, pollute or corrupt the Quran. And so they know this. So they come at us with Trojan horses. It's like someone said, infiltrators. You know, it looks Islamic. It talks Islamic. You know, it sounds Islamic. But with regards to what it actually is everything other than Islamic. And we are primarily being attacked on really the Shahada. And a lot of people don't realize it or understand it. What is the Shahada? The statement that makes us Muslim. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. There is no God except Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. There are people or versions or strains of Islam that have corrupted our understanding of who Allah is and who Allah is not. And likewise, you have versions or strains of so-called Islam that have tainted or polluting on the concept of Muhammad Rasulullah, who the messenger of Allah is, right? And we're going to be hearing a lot, and we should be learning and studying a lot about him, because this is the month of Rabiul Awwal. We should be doing it all year long, but this is the month in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, so we should pay a lot more attention to his seerah. And so, in conclusion, alhamdulillah, people are trying to, slip in messengers and prophets after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these things nullify our Islam. So, alhamdulillah, I'm finished. The champ is here. So, here we go. Bismillah. Tafadulu ya Sheikh.
The champ is here.
You guys are crazy. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I wanted to really address this subject because I think this subject, of all the Islamic sciences, we are the weakest in. The most important subject in Islamic studies is Ilm al-Aqidah, the science of the Islamic creed. And of all the ulum al-Shar'iyya or al-ulum al-Islamiyya, all of the sciences of the sacred law, or all of the Islamic sciences, we are the weakest in this science, which is strange. It is the most important science and the science that we are the most ignorant of. So, and we have people, groups, organizations, individuals who take advantage of the high level of ignorance in this science and pervert the proper creed of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So, as every week we talk about different subjects, and I realize this subject is a subject that people run away from like it's the plague, when it is the foundation of the message of Sayyiduna Muhammad salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And here, yesterday, I got some requests from people before, not yesterday, to listen to certain individuals and certain people that have online lectures. And I told those people in many cases, and I indicated it on these platforms before, be careful who you're listening to. Because a person's talking about an issue you like, that doesn't negate the fact that he's perverting in the religion. In other words, we have a lot of our sisters who want to talk about marriage, and marriage is important, who want to talk about women's rights, and that is important. So they search the internet looking for speakers who's speaking about that issue. And then they log on and they attach and they follow. And they become fascinated with someone defending their rights. But at the same time that those rights are being defended, blasphemous and innovative issues in belief are being fed to them. And sometimes they're not aware because of the lack of learning that these issues are being pushed, right? So, or someone may talk on the black issue, right? Social justice. And while talking about social justice, they're pushing bad Aqidah, innovators in the creed, right? And this is a habit. So, and I see people, many people, so I want you to know, I, like you, I sometimes stroll the net and I observe and I see a lot of people who should know better engaging and listening and supporting people who are perverting everything they say they stand for. And not in a way of, I'm just listening, in the way of affirmative, supporting such bad innovations. So I come with two things. I say either people don't know, they don't understand the issue, or its significance, or its importance, right? They don't know, or they are not able to identify when bad belief is being told to them. So two things. Either they don't know the belief and they don't know its importance, how significant these issues are, or they just not able to identify when someone is telling them the wrong thing. So for example, so yesterday, one of those individuals, and I don't want to go over names. I want you to learn the facts. So because if you learn facts, no matter who says the issue, you'll know it. So if a man was from China or from Saudi Arabia or from Syria or from Philly or from New York, it wouldn't make a difference if you know your belief, no matter who says it, right? Because that's the important thing, not the individual, right? And I think sometimes we fall into a trap by talking about individuals and not issues. Because people start to say, oh, you're talking about that brother or that particular imam. No. Let's talk about the issue. Once you understand the issue, then apply it to whomever it applies to. So for instance, this person, he was giving his lecture and he said that Allah is in heaven and that Allah, he's in heaven above his throne, but we don't know how. And we don't ask about how. We just affirm that Allah said he's above the heaven. And this is incorrect. So I must put that there, but I'm quoting his statement. Then he added to that, just like Allah comes. And he used the attribute of Allah, al-Majid, which means to him that Allah comes. And we know what the meaning of comes means, and we just don't know how. And we don't talk about that. But it's a real coming. It's a real establishment. And I watch people listen to that. And no one said, wait a minute, that is totally wrong. So I feel that we need to address this issue. And we need to talk about it, at least to ensure that the people who listen to the Black Imams Roundtable know for sure what is the correct belief of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and to distinguish it from false beliefs. Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the Sunni Muslims, they don't believe that Allah is in a location, or that Allah moves, or that Allah rests. All of these attributes are attributes of bodies that people are applying to Allah in the name of following the way of the Salaf. And this is a major problem. And so long as people are teaching that, and many innocent Muslims are falling victim to that, then it becomes our obligation to clarify it. So I wanted to touch on this issue, and I would like all of us to be present so we can have a real discussion. Because
Mary,
as we talked about,
Mary, come here. Come here.
if we want unity,
Look on my desk, look on that box, and get
hey, Imam, Luqman, could you put your mic on mute?
my glasses, a little package.
Hey, Imam, could you put your mic on mute real quick?
Oh, okay.
Right. So if we're going to talk about unity, and we must strive for unity, unity is never going to occur until we have unity of belief. And if we're going to give da'wah to others, then as Muslims, before we tell other people what is the correct belief, we ourselves should be certain what is the correct belief. So we have to settle some things. And sometimes the discussion is not simple, right? And we need to put on our intellectual caps to understand the difference. Because if the difference still remains foggy, people are going to be confused. So I say it bluntly, straightly. Whoever ascribes to Allah a location or a place or movement or rest or any meaning that applies to the creation has misunderstood Islam, has created an innovation in the religion, and it can lead and most likely ends up in the state of kufr, blasphemy. That needs to be understood clearly. Now, the thing of defining what is the correct belief in Islam becomes essential. Anyone who downplays the importance of the correct belief in Islam should not be listened to, should not be followed, and should be opposed. So that is the basis what I want to discuss in this round table. So whoever has, as we tell you many times, if you don't got tough skin, then this ain't the place for you, because we're getting ready to have a real conversation. And I'll give it to Imam Luqman, and that is my opening statement.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I'm still stuck on how somebody going to have a conversation in detail about Aqidah in 2 hours. I'm still trying to figure it out. But to open up the door, here's the thing. Okay. Generally, I don't like to talk about details of Aqidah in conversation with a general audience unless I'm the teacher and everybody's listening. I'll just tell you straight up. You know, it's a complex topic. You're talking about advanced theology, and this is something that previously, before us Americans embraced Islam, where we think everybody needs to be on the level of a scholar, because that never existed within Islamic history. Never ever have scholars went and debated back and forth with common people who were not trained about details of Aqidah. It had never happened. It was always a conversation among scholars, or it was a scholar writing a book about Aqidah, like Imam Shafi'i's book on Aqidah, Imam Ahmad's book on Aqidah. The first book about Aqidah was Imam Malik in the Muwatta. He had sections dealing with Aqidah to Ahlus Sunnah. But it was never something that was for people to discuss with everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry Muslim, because it's an advanced topic. Some people don't even know the language by which you need, because when you talk Aqidah, you need to know Arabic. It's not even it's no joke now. Okay, if you want to talk about fiqh, okay, you can get English fiqh Sunnah. You can read. You want to know about biology, about the biography of the Prophet. You can you got translations. You want to talk about Aqidah and you do not know Arabic. I mean, really know Arabic language. Then there's no point. There's no point. You're going to miss the point. You're talking about descriptions about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the akhirah, about malaika, about movement, about sukoon, inzal Allah, all that kind of stuff. about Yadullahi fawqa aydihim. You're talking about you're talking about concepts that you need to know Arabic in order to have that advanced discussion, and that's understood not only by Muslim scholars, that's understood by Orientalist scholars, non-Muslims who get into theology and write about theology, and they write about theology almost as much as Muslims write about theology. Except we don't really follow non-Muslim scholars, but you've got some excellent scholars in the United States who aren't even Muslim, who teach at universities and know their stuff and know what they're talking about. And some of them aren't even Muslim, but they still know what they're talking about. So, but they know Arabic. That's a prerequisite. So my position, I mean, I agree with what you said, Imam, in essence. Yeah, because people have to have the right Aqidah. But I think that for us to put upon people to know advanced Aqidah, I think that's a mistake. I think it's an absolute mistake, because most people, they only need to know certain things about Allah. They don't need to know everything about Allah. Nobody knows everything. If they know that Allah is one, He's their God, He's their Lord, He has power over all things, He has knowledge, He decrees what He wants, He gives what He wants. You have to meet Him Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's the Iman that most people were on, and that's the Iman that the Sahaba were on. Because when they started to explain this, when scholars started to explain the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah was the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, it was because you had Western, you had Persian, you had Roman, you had Christian philosophers who started to talk about, some of them converted to Islam, some of them brought some of the beliefs from where they were into Islam, and it became necessary for scholars to explain things. Like when what's his name? Wasil ibn Atta, when he first came with the idea that there's a stage between kufr and iman, that you can be in a stage where you're not not a believer, well, that prompted scholars have to address those things. When he started to talk about the creation of the Quran, did Allah create the Quran, or is the word of Allah azali, as they said, like eternal? Those, because Imam Ahmad was imprisoned on basis of the people believing that Allah's word was created, and he held fast to his guns, and he was the only one at the end. He was the only major scholar who held on to his guns, and he spent a lot of time in jail, and he died under house arrest because of that. That made it necessary. But for the average person, man, no. I think that we need to deal with some aberrations in Aqidah that come up now, specifically, that affect belief. Like, for example, feminism. That is definitely an Aqidah issue you have to address. About family issues where Aqidah is involved, the imamate of a family, that's involved. Our views on homosexuality, that touches on Aqidah. Our views on lesbianism, those are the areas where we have to fight out the Aqidah to make it clear to people, we are Muslims, this is what we believe. Whether or not angels are your senses or angels are real, that kind of stuff, you have to deal with that in Aqidah. The qadr, you have to deal with the qadr. People have the misunderstanding about the qadr. So I think that it's on imams, it's on scholars, and this is my very strong view. It's on imams, it's on the scholars to address Aqidah within the areas that is necessary, and only to the degree it's necessary, because our history, our recent history has shown, as Black American Muslims, man, every time we open up a bab of any kind of knowledge, we have to go through that period. Sometimes it's a whole generation where people go literally crazy because we're dealing with a simple type of people. That is why the Prophet himself, alayhi salatu wasalam, when it came to Aqidah, in fact, they didn't even use the terminology Aqidah during the time of the Prophet. He didn't say this is your Aqidah. The Prophet didn't use the word in that sense. He didn't even use it. It came later on. He just talked about Iman, and that's how scholars view it. He said, believe in this, believe this, believe this. And the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah It is based upon belief in Allah and belief in His prophets, belief in His books, belief in the angels, belief in the qadr. It's good and it's bad. Those 6 points. That is the Aqidah. And everything else that anybody has written about the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah is an explanation and an expansion of that. So I think we do have Aqidah issues, but whether or not Allah got a hand, whether He moved, whether He steal, do He travel, man, people are not thinking about that, man. People are not thinking about that. I'm telling you, people are not all embroiled about that. We put that on the people, and other people put it on us. So we take this stuff, I mean, I don't think we're going to stay in this state. I think we're going to eventually, I think we're close to moving past that state. But we're still at the state where we're trying to take bits of knowledge or bodies of knowledge and transpose it onto our own intellectual reality, and that is a mistake. And then there's another thing, that many of us are still under the view, and I disagree with this view 100%, I totally disagree. We're still under the view that the way that traditional scholars of different ages, the way that they taught Aqidah to their people is the way we're supposed to teach it to our people. I totally disagree. And I mean, this is not the time to get into the Dalil and all, but there's plenty of Dalil for that. Plenty. And then when it comes to Dalil, Aqidah is that's why it's something that I think we as Imam could talk about it and talk about it before the people and deal with some of the issues where people have problems with it because on the East Coast, well, you're close to the epicenter of Salafism, which is Philadelphia. Philadelphia is Philadelphia is the epicenter of Salafism. I mean, I'm not going into pro Salafi, being against. I wrote about that in my book. When you read my book called "The Devil's Deception from the Modern Day Salafi Sect." But Philly is the epicenter of Salafism, and it became the epicenter of theological discourse and arguments between Black American Muslims. That's why we lost a generation, because it's like taking a 50 caliber machine gun and you get somebody who just graduated from high school and never even shot a gun and say, here, sit on this 50 caliber machine gun and start shooting. That's what you do when you put advanced Aqidah in the hand of the untrained. You got people who talking about Aqidah, you don't even know a juz of Quran. That's insane. That's just but we're on the insanity tip now. So but I think that
try to so we can get around and have
I'm going to summarize. By saying that I think it's necessary that we simplify Aqidah for people and we address the areas where there is a gross misunderstanding about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and about the deen of Islam. I'll say that.
Okay. Tayyib, Imam Faheem, Imam Naeem, we got to build on. Imam Luqman, get your helmet, I'm coming.
Imam Luqman, I have to respectfully differ with you, Sheikh, because when we're talking about Aqidah, many of the basic books, they tell you about what is wajib upon the one who is mukallaf, the one who reaches the age of responsibility, and that's a young age, and then they talk about what is necessary to know about Allah, what is possible and what is rationally impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we got to teach this. We just saw in the comments that somebody think they understand this concept that's been pushed on us, that these attributes that Allah described with are literal. That when he says coming and descending and above the throne, they believe these in a literal sense. And you can't believe that as Ahlus Sunnah. You can't. The literal meaning is the one that doesn't apply to Allah. And then people, they affirm a literal meaning, and then they say, oh, okay, without bilad kayf and without ta'wil and ta'til and all of that stuff that they put in those books, and we gotta counter this. We just can't let this go. You got people thinking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has two right hands and they just don't know what they look like. And because for him to have a left hand is a deficiency, that's kufr. You have people believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the istawa.
I disagree. I disagree with that.
Well, I mean, you got to go back and see where these people in your city are teaching and stuff, and they affirming that all of the attributes are the same. They're saying that they're all the same.
Why you gotta say my city, man?
Because you're a Philly boy, man. You're a Philly boy. I got, but I'm saying, and I mean, I got guys on, I got them recorded. They said that all of Allah's attributes are literal. All of them are literal. Literal has one meaning. If you say that Allah has eyes, and then you say that you believe that you're literal, you affirm that they're literal without saying it, but you already affirm it, literal eyes means two eyeballs. There's no way we can believe that about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's no way that we can think that our people are not able to understand these concepts. This is not rocket science, because we understand laysa kamithlihi shay. You know what I mean? A literal face. And then I've heard people say that because whatever, and you can attest to this, that whatever we only affirm what Allah says. So whatever he doesn't say, then that we don't affirm it. So they say that Allah has a face, and they understand to be literal, but he has nothing else. He doesn't have a head. He doesn't have none of that. What kind of crap is that? If you are pushing that, and they say hakikatan, some of these major ulama, they said Allah has two literal eyes, hakikatan, in reality. I mean, I don't know, Imam, but this stuff we cannot believe about Allah. This is not befitting of His Majesty that we attribute to Him things that seem like that they are organs and limbs. I just listened to one of these so-called great students of knowledge, and he said that everything that is considered for perfection for mankind, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has more of a right of it. So, for instance, so they saying, but they attribute to Allah having one hand and not having two. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he said that he has a face and no other attributes, that he has a hand and not two hands. That's imperfection in itself. Why would we attribute that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I mean, this is I think our people are ready, because we've been but I got the other
not ready. No.
Yeah, they're ready, man. Look on the chat, man. They ready.
Alhamdulillah, Oh, Imam, Amin, you saying something? Can y'all hear Imam Amin? I don't hear nothing.
I'm talking, I wasn't on thing. Imam Luqman, Imam Faheem, and Imam Naeem, and all of the people in the on the live and on Facebook. In order to have this discussion, you have to have the ability to listen to the other. The problem is when you don't agree, you shut your ears. Don't do that. In the course of a conversation, you're going to dialogue. You're going to have difference of opinion. In order to clarify that, you have to be able to understand what someone else is saying. It's extremely important. And then respond. I have to get my discussion, and I just ask everyone to be patient. Even when you disagree, listen, record, write, and then clarify. Barakallahu bikum. Go ahead, Imam Naeem.
I was going to say that I agree with Imam Faheem. Like even, us Malikis, right? We're learning a children's book called the Akhdari, right? It's a book originally written for children and doesn't even cover all areas of fiqh. It just covers some areas of ibadat, primarily tahara and salat. But after the introduction, the first thing that Imam Abdurrahman al-Akhdari says is that it's obligatory for every mukallaf to know or do he says, Tasihu imanihi, to correct his iman, to correct his faith. And Imam Luqman, what you were saying about certain things being advanced, yes, under normal circumstances, it's not obligatory upon the common person to delve into those areas of Iman that are like from the furor, the branches dealing with Iman. But every mukallaf person needs enough knowledge of this science to make his belief sound. Now, on top of that, us black people have been targeted with various aspects of erroneous belief, like putting Allah in locations, giving Allah attributes of his creation, attributing Allah with movement, etc., etc., etc. So that, as they say, that horse is already outside of this, out of the stable. It's already being done, not by us. You know, they already doing it. So it's our job to correct it. That's the only thing I like to add to that part.
Imam Luqman, I'm gonna give you a chance to respond, then I'll come back and respond after what I'm going to say after you. Go ahead.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. I'm still pretty much where I am on that. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and situational realities of Black American Muslims is also geographical. It's also generational. And I'm just coming from a different perspective, you know. Listen, I was taught Islam by my parents. I still believe in the same thing. Even after going to school, even after getting a degree from Islamic University, I still believe exactly what my mother and my father taught me. The basic belief. That's what I taught my children. They still believe it. They practice Islam. That's what my grandchildren are learning now. The basic thing. I never ever tried to teach my kids advanced theology, nor did they ever ask, nor did they ever question about Allah, about do we got a hand? It didn't, you know, because Iman is Iman, and Iman Majamal in a person's ear, you know, a person can understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply by believing the basic things as Allah has commanded, right? Because if you believe basically about Allah, you could, because the objective is not to have advanced aqidah, the objective is to be guided. That's the objective. Not to have all this information. The objective is to be guided on the right path, right? I'm talking, stop it, be quiet. Oh, this just like Allah says, وَمَنْ يَعْتَسِمْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ هُدِيَ إِلَى الصِّرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. Whoever holds fast to Allah, then he is guided to the Sirat Mustaqim. And Allah also says, وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا زَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُم. The objective is the person to have taqwa of Allah, to believe as the Prophet believed. And if they stop at that, because most people that I know, and the way I teach my kids, and my kids are grown Muslim, man. I mean, we ain't perfect, but man, we have Muslims in our family, and we all on the same belief. And we got Malikis, we got Shafi'is, we got Hanafis. We differ on fiqh. We don't argue about it. But on Iman, because Iman is simple. And sometimes I can understand when you got people pumping the ideology, aka through the Salafi situation, they pumped ideology and they made people want to be or think that they are scholars, or to start to having theological arguments on a damn street corner. You don't got a pot to piss in and you arguing about Allah's hand. Seriously. So you don't even know how to make salat, some of them, man. That's just insane. That's insanity. And I think that we need to designate people, in our communities to deal with the insane group. I just think we need to have certain people. Okay, brothers, listen, you deal with that stupid argumentation so the rest of us can go on about our business and try to build something. I don't think it's something we need to bring everybody in because everybody's not on that page. Everybody's on that page. And eventually we were going to change the paradigm. We're having these discussions now because people are new in Islam and they've been bombarded with programming, bombarded with Aqidah, and who's a Khawarij, or who's a Mu'tazila, and even people are making up groups to oppose. People are arguing about groups of Islam that don't even exist anymore. Yeah, these are the Rafida. I mean, it is crazy. It's just the craziest thing I say. But but it got us. So eventually, we're going to get beyond that. So there's two camps. There's the camps that still got to fight that ideological fight. I ain't in that. I'm not even, man, I'll dismiss you. Seriously. I'll let somebody else deal with you. If you want to have an argument with me on Aqidah, just talk Arabic. If you can't talk Arabic, leave me alone. Unless I'm teaching you. If I teach you, fine. I ain't having no discourse with nobody, man. They got 2 months worth of Islamic learning. No, I'm not going to do it. Ever. I would never do that again. But there's some people who may need to do that. And there may be even a fard kifaya on some people to know Aqidah in that sense and explain, because in these inner cities, man, that's how they got us. That's how they destroyed a whole generation. Got people arguing over Aqidah. I cannot believe it. It just, okay, but it happens. But then there's the other group, the other Muslims who just want to believe the basic belief of Islam. They're not trying to figure out, do Allah got a hand? Do he got eyes? Is his eyes blue? Is it red? You know, what's it? They're not trying to, they're not trying to figure out the arsh, what it means. What's istiwa? What does that mean? What do the sifat? What's the detail? Is that the sifat al-kimal? What's it? They're not trying to figure it out. All they want to know is, listen, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. I'm a Muslim. I want to do my prayers, pay my zakat, fast for Ramadan, take care of my family, man. I'm just trying to be Muslim, man. I'm not trying to be a damn scholar. So you got those people. So don't bring those people into this stupid ass argument we having about Aqidah. Not that the argument is stupid, but the fact that we don't understand the level of insanity we're talking about. We don't understand. Because you got all these people trying to do Aqidah, okay, fine. But then we ain't building nothing. We've seen right now, we have seen in our country over the last 30 years, since 1980, 40 years, they really start to pump up the Salafiyya thing in 1980, 1981, 82. I was there, remember. So since that time, arguing over all that stuff for 40 years, and you're still in the same condition. That is, where you could have got much better done. Say, listen, we're just going to take the belief, and even in terms of unity, unify over the major beliefs. Heck, if you go try to you can't unify over every single particular of usul and aqidah. That's crazy. That is just crazy stuff. We're involved in it, but I think we got to take out the craziness and maybe, like I said, designate, like I told you, man. I mean, okay, you gonna teach that stuff, man. Alhamdulillah, because they fighting you in your city, whatever. Y'all down there in the hood. Y'all down there on the East Coast. In the East Coast, they do that. They'll come and take off your masjid if you ain't sharp. Yeah, man. Yeah, they do that. Give her a place of, there ain't nobody taking it. We got Salafis out here, man. Listen. They come to the masjid, this to the Quba, and I'll be like, they don't say anything. So I just think that as far as, I'm going to finish here, as far as the discourse, I think that discourse may be necessary, but it's not necessary for everybody, because you have people who, man, all they want to do is know the basics, man. If you come in Islam, listen, man, I just want to know the basics. But what am I supposed to believe? Okay. I'll give them the hadith of Jibreel and let them go about their day.
Imam, these are the basics. We're not even talking about advanced theology. We're being attacked in our basics.
That is true.
We're not the one.
That is true. I can't.
We're not the one who introduced all these arguments and gave Allah all these superfluous attributes they did.
So Imam, Luqman, let me jump in, and I need you to keep your mic on. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, right? And everyone can jump in, right? But I'm going to ask you a series of questions because I listened to you, I heard your whole reasoning, right? And I'm going to give you a hint. I knew there's certain things that we got to realize. Whenever we've been influenced by something, whether explicitly or implicitly, we're affected by it. You understand what I'm saying? Whenever, listen closely to what I'm saying, we're brothers. So we're going to dialogue. What I like about you, there is no sectarianism with you. That means you're going to accept truth as you hear it. And you're an independent thinker, so you're going to dialogue. So we're going to have a dialogue. I would love to have this kind of conversation with one who opposes the creed of the Ash'ariyah and Maturidiyya. When I say Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, that's what I mean. So I don't want to be vague. Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and everything is under that umbrella. Whenever you hear me say Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, humul Ash'ariyah wal Maturidiyya bilughati al-Arabiyya. Tafham Sayyidi? Right? You with me? Right? That's Arabic. So I said, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. Right? And that is what I intend by that term, Ahlus Sunnah. So there's no ambiguity. I don't mean Wahhabiyya, Salafiyya, Shia, Khawarij, Mu'tazila. I don't mean none of that. Nation of Islam, I mean Al-Ash'ariyah wal-Maturidiyya. Simple, clear, clear. Not none of it, right? So I'm explicit. So when I say Ahlus Sunnah, right? That means when someone says, I'm Luqman Ahmad, if Imam Faheem said he's Luqman Ahmad, aren't you going to say, no, I'm Luqman Ahmad, you're Faheem Lee, right or wrong? Question, Imam.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, of course.
All right, we're just having a series. So therefore, at least you're not going to let Imam Faheem or myself or me, Imam Naeem, pretend to be you. You're not going to accept. Even though you like us, you're going to say, hold up, I like you, bro, but you're not me. Right? That's it. Likewise, when the Wahhabiyya, so-called Salafiyya, say they are Ahlus Sunnah, immediately you're going to say, hold up, this is what we mean by Ahlus Sunnah. You're not Ahlus Sunnah. I'm saying that for reason. Let's talk about the basics of Islam. Among the most foundational. Imam Luqman, you gotta get the shake and it's quiet. Or just put it on mute. Sorry, just put it on mute for a minute, right? And then you can respond what I'm saying. So if we're talking about the basics of Islam, because I agree with you, not every common person needs to know details of Aqidah. I agree. They need to know usul al-Aqidah, the foundational aspects of the Aqidah. So when we say al-Iman, you mention belief in Allah, right? His angels, his books, and his messages. And all of those, they have details and they have foundational aspects. Among the most foundational aspects of belief in Allah is mentioned in the Quran, where Allah says about himself, "Laysa kamithlihi shay," right or wrong? This is true, right? So whenever one describes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which an attribute from among the attributes of the creation, that person has went against the foundational belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Would you agree with that? Just what I mentioned. Go ahead.
It all depends on what the intention. For example, we know Allah.
Wait a minute. Don't go into details. Listen for what I'm saying. I'm just asking you specific questions so we can get the conversation fully going. If a person believes firmly in their heart that Allah is attributed with attributes that belong to the creation, that is against the foundations of belief in Allah. Would you agree?
No, I disagree with that.
Okay, why? Explain.
Because you can say رجل رحيم وهذا يعني هذه صفة للرجل وهو إنسان وهو ليس الله، ثم يقال الله هو رحيم وكان بالمؤمنين رحيما. هذه صفة واحد يتصف
I'm going to correct your Arabic. Since you correct Arabic, I'm going to correct that. When you say sifa, you have to use wahida. Sifatun wahidatun. I'm messing with you. You can't say
sifa wahida. هو مفهوم أنه على مفرد صفة، هذا مفرد صفة واحدة، هذا صفة للكلمة الصفة، ولكن هو صفة واحدة، هذا اللغة العربية يعني المفهوم هو يعني. Okay, so
but remember, the people don't speak Arabic, so you got to translate everything you're saying.
Okay, I'm saying that you can clearly say that man right there, he's a merciful man. And you're describing that man as merciful. And you can clearly say Allah is a merciful Lord. And you're describing Allah as merciful. Now, the mercy that exists when that within that man, it is not like the mercy that exists only in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's the same characteristic, except that Allah's characteristics, they are his characteristics. He grants people different characteristics that he himself owns. He places it within inside. We know that all the mercy that exists on the planet Earth, all of it, whether it's in that person, whether it's in the animal, whether it's in the horse, whether it's in the cat, all the mercy that exists on the planet Earth is part of Allah's mercy, of which there are 100 parts of his mercy, according to the Sahih, according to we know to be authentic from our Prophet ﷺ, and one part of his mercy is what he sent down to this dunya. So if a person has some mercy in him, it's good. No, let me finish. So, but let me finish. Let me answer my question. So that would seem to indicate that a person can have an attribute that, in its basis, it is one of the attributes that Allah has, but attributes are different in Allah than they are in a human being. So if a dude said to me, you know what, man, my father's really merciful and Allah is merciful, what am I to call him a kafir? What am I to make takfir on the dude? He's not trying to disbelieve. No, he's just saying that Allah is merciful. He gets that. He understands that Allah is different from his father. And he says, but my father, he's merciful. And Allah is merciful. Wow. What we gonna make takfir on the dude? Come on.
I think you're missing the point. And let me give you to clarify the point. You're talking about the agreement of wording and meanings, which you clarified. The word rahma, or the attribute sifatul rahma, the attribute of mercy, when related to human beings, has one meaning, and when related to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, it has a completely different meaning. Would you agree?
Well, who don't know that? What knucklehead can't figure that out?
Right, now follow me.
I mean, seriously.
So when you describe human beings, mercy, you're talking about attributes of emotion, right? Am I right?
Not necessarily of
what human being you say is merciful?
Mercy is not necessarily an emotion. Mercy,
when you say
mercy is part of a club.
Huh?
It's a response to something,
it's
though.
emotion.
Sometimes,
and
no, not all the time. It is not all the time. Not all the time.
You cannot say emotion.
No. Mercy is not a response to something all the time. Mercy is an attribute that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates in things, in people, in human beings, in animals. He creates mercy, man. If a cat, I got a cat. Wait a minute, I'm going to give you an example.
You said, listen,
let me make a point.
One second, let me help you with something. All right, let me just help you with one thing.
No.
All right, make your point and then I'll ask you. Go ahead.
Okay, here's the thing. I have a cat, right?
Point, make it brief.
If a cat,
because I want to ask this question to help you.
It's going to be a 30-second point.
Go ahead.
I have a cat. If my cat wants to pull you just to be nice, and he does like this. I mean, she does like this, and she got. But if I'm trying to grab her in the way she don't like, and she wants to scratch me, then her nails come out of the same claw, right? It's a defensive thing. But her mercy, that's inside the cat. I do not believe the cat said, I'm going to be merciful. No. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates a quality of iman, or even of kufr, of hulum, of akhlaq in a person, it doesn't necessarily have to be its emotional quality, because people have zillions of qualities. So we just can't. I don't think. I just think this is moot stuff. Like, why are we talking about this, man? Listen, when I saw that topic today, I meant to call you, man. But today was daughter's birthday. We was at Chuck E. Cheese. I meant to call you. I was going to call you. Wallahi, I was going to call you. I was going to call you and say, man, come on, man, really?
As I'm listening to you, you explaining to me why this topic is important, right? For you, because you said Arabic. No, seriously. And I love you, your brothers. Listen, and we're going to translate everything that we're saying, but because this is where you need the help, right? ما معنى رحمة في اللغة العربية? What is the meaning of rahmah in the Arabic language? What is the meaning of rahmah? Do you know?
I'm sure I do know. Do you want me to أشرح لك إن معنى رحمة لغة؟
لغة. ما معنى الرحمة في اللغة العربية? What is the meaning of mercy in the Arabic language? Give me the meaning. I'm helping you with something.
Rahma huwa. No, bro. No. I'm not playing a game. I'm gonna tell you something. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna look up Rahma right now. No.
Listen.
No. Because
here's the point.
Rahma means
Don't
mercy.
get angry. Don't listen. Don't get angry.
I'm not angry. I'm just listen. I just don't play games like that. No, listen. I'm not angry, brother Wallahi, but I do not play. No, brother, listen. I'm not angry. I'm not angry, but I do not play those kind of games. If you want to have that kind of discussion, man, we can sit down and break it all down. I'm not going to sit and say, okay, so what does mercy mean? I don't play gotcha. No, I don't play gotcha Islam.
It ain't gotcha.
And I love you like family, man. No. What is mercy allowed to be?
We can argue, but we can't talk. We said we're going to talk. We're not going to argue. So we're brothers. We established that. We're going to have a conversation.
I'm not arguing. I don't play that. I just don't listen, brother. Listen. I just don't listen, man.
Just stop. You can just click and say, I don't want to have the conversation.
ما مقصودك من أن أشرح لك معنى رحمة في اللغة العربية؟ إيش القصد؟
Okay, the objective of me asking that question, which you asked me in Arabic, the objective is to define, when we use the word mercy, what do we mean by that? And when we say mercy in the Arabic language, we say it is a softness in the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have a heart. So we cannot use that literal meaning of mercy that we apply to created things to Allah. So when Allah says a man, when you say a man is merciful and Allah is merciful, it does not have the same meaning. Why? Laysa kamithlihi shay. Do you understand what I'm saying? Why I asked the question? Do you understand why I asked the question?
Yeah, but who in their right mind goes around saying, your mercy, and your mercy is just like Allah's mercy. Wow. You're just like Allah, bro. Your mercy, Allah's mercy, and you are just like him. SubhanAllah. Who in their
replace mercy with hands, face, and eyes, and see what you come up with.
So here's my point. When you say that,
you're on the wrong page.
I agree. You don't want to say that. But what you're missing, and I agree with you, that we shouldn't have to have these conversations, right? But unfortunately, there are some people pushing ideas to our community that must be addressed. So there are Muslims who claim to be Muslims,
just kick around,
ascribing to Allah attributes of creation. And that
kick them jokers out, man. You got too much other stuff to do, man.
You cannot. You have to deal with it. And hence, why Imam Tahawi and all of the great scholars like Imam Ahmad, like all of those scholars, why did they write those creeds? Because there were people carrying beliefs that contradict the belief of Islam. So therefore, they had to clarify. There is no difference in our time, especially in Philadelphia, specifically, more than anywhere else in the United States of America, in the Black community, there are more people walking around with corrupt aqidah because someone is telling them that. Then you cannot ignore it. You cannot just say, okay, it's a fruitless conversation. No, this is the essential part of the belief. If that is not the case, then that means as Muslims, we don't know what we believe. And that's definitely not the case, if you understand the point.
I see your point, but we got more of a problem with feminism. Feminism is more of a problem, man. There's somebody not understanding about Allah's hand, man. Feminism, Black nationalism, following people like the doggone Black Lives Matter, man. Marriage, man. The issue of marriage, the messed up views that we have about marriage and about polygamy and about divorce. That's our problem.
We can talk about that when we address those issues, which we do. But you can't run from the issue of the correct creed. Because listen, if you don't address it, it don't change. While you're saying don't address it, there are 20 people telling Black babies that Allah's in heaven sitting on a throne. Do you realize that? There are people telling people that Allah has hands and feet and that Allah moves and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has attributes that are not befitting.
And you know what?
Let me finish. While at the same time, we're not addressing the issue. Now, what I say to you, if you say it's unimportant, I'm going to give you a research project.
No.
You got all those books. No. You got Fathul Bari. You got Sharh al-Nawawi. You got Tafasir.
Okay, what you got?
These issues are mentioned explicitly in the same hadith, that people are using to ascribe Allah's attributes similar to attributes of the creation. That is a problem. And when you have the information, it is your responsibility to clarify it without an argument. See, that's what I say this. If we're having a discussion, it's not an argument. Let's just talk. Let's talk about the issue. We are adults. We have Quran. We have Sunnah. And we have the way of the Salaf. Then we should discuss it. It's not an argument.
No, best I can do is, okay, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I have a couple good articles about Aqidah. I'm going to post them. And people can read. You want to understand about Aqidah? Basic Aqidah, man. Come on. If you need to get more, go to school.
Okay, but what we're going to continue while you do that, and we're going to discuss certain issues.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Right? You can put your mic on mute for a minute while we do that, right? So here, what I wanted to address, and here, I know sometimes these discussions, they are very sensitive, and I understand that, right? But we can't run from them. I remember one of our sheikhs, he said to us, he said, while you are so lazy in this issue of defining the truth, the people of falsehood are so energetic in spreading falsehood. And I think this is something that we got to work on. And let me take that issue. When someone says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in heaven, and they ascribe Allah with locations. They are contradicting a foundational part of the belief, which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala laysa kamithlihi shay', which all of the scholars of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, agreed that Allah is attributed with the attribute of al-mukhalafatu lil hawadith. He does not resemble his creation. What does that mean? Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, who is a Salaf, Imam from the Salaf, he explicitly stated, وَمَنْ وَصَفَ اللَّهَ بِمَعْنٍ مِنْ مَعَانِ الْبَشَرِ فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. Look what at-Tahawi, who was a Hafiz of Hadith, a master of Arabic language. He said, whoever describes Allah with a meaning among the meanings of the creation has committed disbelief. That's Imam al-Tahawi. That's not Amin Muhammad. That is Imam al-Tahawi. And Allah, he mentioned that Allah cannot be contained by the 6 directions. So with that statement, how do we, what Allah is saying, laysa kamithlihi shay', how do we say that someone who says that Allah is in a place or a location is insignificant and it doesn't matter? For the life of me, I don't understand how we can make such a statement. And when you have Muslims, the majority of the Muslims, saying that Allah mawjudun bila makan, Ibn Hajar Asqalani, An-Nawawi, Al-Qurtubi, Ibn Kathir, all of those scholars mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in a location, and then someone comes along and says Allah is in a location, how do we say that's unimportant? Is to say that the Muslims don't know the basics of their belief? I'm going to let Imam Naeem and then come back to you, Imam Luqman. Go ahead, Imam Naeem.
It is important. I mean, it's extremely important because number one is contradicting the text and the meaning of the Quran, and this deviance is being mass produced. I was thinking while y'all was talking, you know, they're producing children's books that we are buying and bringing into our homes, and that then Islamic schools are purchasing. And in the children books, it says, "Ain Allah," you know, where's Allah? And the answer is fi sama, in the heavens. You know, they put this in the children's books now. So, you know, they teaching, you know, bad beliefs from an early age. So this is extremely important. Extremely important. And you mentioned Aqidah of Imam Tahawi, and that's not a scholarly book. That's a basic book on belief. So that's not like an advanced conversation or an advanced level of Aqidah where we're getting into polemics or everything. It's just outlining the basic belief of the Muslim.
We still not opening our own schools, okay? There's nothing to stop us in America from writing our own books, man, or starting our own schools, teaching our own children. So all this talk, and we're not ready to teach our own. We're not ready to do for our own. We're not ready to take care of Imam. We're not ready to open up a school. We're not ready to volunteer for a Sunday school. We're not ready to write our own books, man. It don't take a scientist to write a doggone book. It just takes people doing the work, people reaching. If we wrote books, we wouldn't buy our own books. We would still go to the other store and buy their books because it's written by Black people, man. So all this talking about Aqidah, I understand the necessity of it, man. But the thing is that by the time we finish having this conversation, our community is going to be already extinct.
But here's my question.
I just wanted to mention that, you know, alhamdulillah, we started our own school on Sunday at Masjid al-Mu'min, and we're teaching children the Quran, and we're building to a school. We published this book. This is a book on Usuluddin by Sheikh Luqman Toledo. So, you know, at our school, you know, we're not going to get that book, Ain Allah, Fi Sama. We're not going to get that. We're going to get this right here.
Alaykum bi anfusikum la yadurukum man dalla in ihtadaytum. He says, worry about yourselves, because the people that go astray, they can't hurt you as long as you are following the guidance. We can't try to save everybody, man. Because you got people, that's their thing. Argue about Aqidah, argue about fiqh. They learn a couple of words, man. They want to argue. Man, nix them niggas, man.
But see, here's my point, Imam Luqman.
You fight them. You argue with them.
I'm not going to argue with them, and I'm not going to fight them. What I'm going to do is teach people the correct Aqidah. And that's what we got to do. And here's where in the Black Roundtable, right? What our job on the Black Roundtable, this is our jobs as imams. And we talk about issues that are pertinent to our community.
Yeah.
Right? And this is an impertinent issue to our community. If you look in the comments, you'll see that you got people who've been taught a bad belief. Do we just leave them?
That is true.
Do we just say, okay, it's okay, leave them? So you got many people. If it weren't for us talking about these issues, clarifying, teaching, they would still be Wahhabi. Seriously, they would be. Some would still be Shia. Some would be cursing the companions if we weren't teaching what we teach. Some people would still walk around talking about our Father who art in heaven. Muslims who claim to be Muslims, they would be saying that. Our Father who art in heaven. And guess what? That is in their book. That is in their books.
What book?
In those Salafi books, they have narrations like that. You didn't know that? You do. And here's the issue. If we don't address it, we have generations of Black people who are looked at as deviants in the Islamic world. So we have to teach them. That's important.
We're going to look at deviance for a long, 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 long time. I don't know if that's going to change. It's not going to change in this generation because we still are fighting someone else's fight. And so I think that it just has to be multi-pronged. Some people need to talk about that, teach about that. You teach about. Listen, I taught Aqidah for years, from 1996 to about the year 2000. Advanced, beginning, intermediate. Some people still have the tapes that I did back then, you know. And when I dealt with the Salafi stuff, I saw the ideological onslaught. I wrote a book about it to break it down so people have some understanding. Now, so I think that the way as imams, you know, and I'm glad we brothers because you know, I'm telling the audience, if I bicker with him, man, don't get it twisted. This is my nigga right here. No, seriously, they can say what they want, man. You know, you my man. You know,
hey, no,
right here.
Imam Luqman, I share something with you.
No. I just want to clarify to the people. I don't want people to think, oh man, what's wrong with the
Imam Luqman. Yeah. No one thinks that. They know for sure that we tight.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have to have those discussions.
Of course.
Because the other thing would happen. They would think that all we do is agree on everything. Now we don't agree on everything.
No, we don't agree on everything.
Imam Faheem is having his hand raised. Let's give him the mic.
Well, first, I want to give a shout out to one of the listeners, a brother named Abu Isa Gooding, his son, Little Isa. He asked me to shout him out. Assalamu alaikum, Little Isa. You watching? You know, we got kids watching. I was going to say, now, I understand, Imam Luqman, you know, some of this stuff is not as important, but we're talking about countering a lot of stuff that's been happening. Because I can't let nobody believe that when they go listen to another scholar that they say that he is the faqih of the era of this time. And he says that Allah has two literal eyes. Two literal eyes. And there is no other meaning for two literal eyes except two eyeballs placed in the head. We can't attribute that to Allah. We can't let people believe that about Allah Azza wa Jal. We got another one that says, you know, the muhaddith of this time says that Allah is in a non-existent place. And when we talk about basic Aqidah, that we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's attributed with Qidam. You know, he has eternal beginning. You know what I mean? This is something you learn basically, you know, and then we got to teach this stuff. I read online today that a sister made a post about how we let Allah down. Imagine how Allah feels. Alhamdulillah, somebody was on there to correct her. Allah is not subjected to having feelings and emotions. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is described with anger and wrath like that, that doesn't mean emotion. Like something's provoked Allah and he had a response to it. This stuff is important because, and then the other part, and alhamdulillah, I'm glad I came across people who clarified the stuff for me because I used to run with Wahhabis. You know what I mean? And they used to counter the stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Hold up. That's an important thing you're mentioning, Imam Faheem. If somebody wasn't teaching, you might still be in that state. That's a good point.
I still be walking around here talking about just follow Quran and Sunnah. Asheris are deviant. They believe that Allah only has 13 attributes. I heard a top student of knowledge say that out of his mouth, cheating people. No, what he forgot to say is that Allah has 13 necessary attributes that every mukallaf needs to know, because that is what makes Allah Allah. And when you know these 13 attributes, then you know that these other things that they teach are not befitting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of them saying that you're not from Ahlus Sunnah unless you believe that Allah has a larynx, a throat, that he has a waist, that he moves, that he jogs, that he trots.
See,
these are all attributes of the created thing.
Point well made, man. Point well made. No. Point well. Listen. Point well made.
But I wanted to say it's not about arguing. We really have to clarify and counter this stuff. Because listen, how is it that somebody, you know what I mean, you're a Muslim and you know the basic Muslim, yes, they know Allah is one, he has no partners, this, that, and the other. Then somebody comes and asks you, where is Allah? And saying that you don't have the proper belief because you don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is subjected to time and space, so hence he can't be in a location. Allah is the creator of spaces and locations and time. He can't be in his creation. That's a basic belief of Muslims.
No. Listen, I understand, and now I get Imam Amin's point a little bit better about the need, because the perspective that I was coming from pretty much was my own perspective. Like I said, I grew up, we were always Ahlus Sunnah. Wasn't no issue about Aqidah. They didn't even use the word Aqidah when I grew up. We only really stuck to the basic beliefs of Islam, right? There was no question about Istiwa and none of that stuff. We didn't, growing up as a Muslim, I didn't think about that. I thought about Allah, make salat, Allah has power, make dua to Allah, call on Allah.
You got to think about the time you came up in. You got 40 years in this thing. We talking about in recent times, there's been an onslaught of this.
You help me understand. No, Imam, listen. Y'all help me understand. That's why it's good to have little bickering, man, because that's how Abu Bakr and Umar, because that's how you get to understanding, man. If we disagree and everything, we don't understand nothing. But now I have a better understanding of where you're coming from, because it was maybe a little difficult for me to put my mind in the mindset of somebody who's on that, because we were never on that. We weren't taught that. I didn't teach my kids that. My daughter didn't pop up, or my son didn't pop up and say, yeah, Allah, yeah, boo, Allah got hands, and I'm an Ash'ari. My kids didn't go through that. They went through the basic things, and they practiced Islam on that, right?
They've been practicing. Nowadays we got teachers. We got teachers pointing to their shin and asking people, do you believe Allah has a shin? And pointing to his own shin.
Bro, when you say that, that brings it home for me. Now I can understand why, Imam, I mean, and yourself, why you're putting the emphasis. I can now, it makes better sense. Still, I ain't gonna be into it. No, y'all do that. But I'm just saying, but at least I understand the need. Because see, I'm not aware, because I'm not going to nobody's classes. I'm not saying I can't learn anything, but I ain't been up in those sheikhs since 30-something years, man. Since I was up sitting with the sheikh, getting this water, making coffee, all that stuff, shining shoes. I did this stuff when I was a youngster. So I haven't been going around listening to sheikhs and trying to understand. but you kind of remind me of just people that I come in contact with here and there, you know, where they be saying stuff, and I kind of dismiss it like, nigga, you know, and maybe that's where I need to work on my own patience, because I ain't got patience for stupid niggas, man. I just don't, man. I don't, man. I don't. Either you a teacher or you learn. I'm not gonna dialogue with you and you know peanuts. I'm not gonna do that. You may have more talk than me, but if you don't know what you're talking about, man, you ain't getting no dialogue out of me, man. You can sit down and we can teach, and I'll quiet down and I'll break it down to you if you got some time. You come to my class, listen to it. I don't teach Akida classes no more. I don't even teach I just teach regular Iman. But now that you put it that way, I understand, and that probably reflects the difference in our generation.
Hey, Imam, can I share something with you?
But now I get it though. I get it.
Imam, let me share something with you. And I don't want to call names. I'm trying to get us to get the point without name calling, right? Nope. Without mentioning individuals.
Don't mention the names. I know you talking about, man.
No, that's my point. If we got the point, it's good. Now,
I know he's
listen, seriously, time flies. I remember over 30 years ago, I was studying in Azhar. Listen to my point. 30 years ago, right? And when I was in school, our curriculum was basic Ash'ari Aqidah. You rarely even heard the name Ash'ari. All the basic books just told you these are the attributes of Allah. He's attributed with al-wujud, existence, al-qidam, no beginning, al-baqa, everlastingness, al-mukhalafat lil-hawadif, no resemblance to creation, al-qiyamu bin-nafs, he has no need for the creation, etc. We learned this stuff, basic
stuff.
Islamic belief, right? And as you develop in your studies, you start to learn more of scholars and everything. But everyone, even in the beginning schools, the middle schools, that's where everybody learned. Al-aqidati al-sunnati wal jama'ah, right? That's what everybody learned. No one is arguing. No one is questioning. Now, that's typical. It's been like that for 1,000 years. You heard what I said? 1,000 years. This was the Aqidah of Azhar. Every layman, every scholar, everyone knows the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah as was taught in Azhar University. Listen to me. For 1,000 years, here and now today, and we watch them online. Some of brothers who we all right with, talking about I'm Azhar, talking about Wahhabi Aqidah. I studied in Azhar with a Wahhabi Aqidah. Something that has been for 1,000 years. Listen to that number, 1,000 years. Now, a tradition that was 1,000 years old, basic ABCs of Islamic belief, have now become questioned by these people who now, if someone says I'm from Azhar, you got to question them. What's your belief?
Because.
Listen to that. Now we got people talking about Allah's got in a location, that he's above his throne, that he got hands, that he got feet, all of these things, and saying I'm Azhari. To the point that the scholars of Al-Azhar, for y'all who don't know Azhar, Al-Azhar is the center of Islamic learning in the world. It has always had that position for over 1,000 years.
And it was started by the Shia. Right. It was started by the Fatimids.
Right. So before that, after that, 1,000 years, right? Now, Al-Azhar today, when someone says I'm Azhari, you got to ask him, are you really Azhari? Or you are Wahhabi in Azhar clothes? Think about that. How dangerous that is, right? To the point that Azhar scholars, they distinguish the manhaj of Azhar and the organization of Azhar. The scholars, they say that.
But listen, Azhar has always been known, has always been subject to the intellectual politics of the time. When Napoleon Bonaparte conquered Cairo, Azhar issued a fatwa. He says, listen, Sayyidina Napoleon, Allah has given him the hukum, he's given him the rule over us, and our suggestion is simply obey Bonaparte. So Azhar
has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No,
we're talking about the foundation of the creed. They've never changed that to this day.
Egypt is poor right now. Egypt just went to have a terrible economic downturn, and and the Gulf and the people who are the proponent of the Salafi da'wah and the Wahhabi da'wah, they happen to be at the point right now. They control a tremendous amount of the funding. So it's not that difficult to draw a line. Listen, I don't know what kind of finance Azhar has. I don't know, but I would suspect that given that the country itself is falling on economic hard times, and you still have that that monetary largesse in the Gulf, and and we know historically that they've used their money and influence, man, to propagate a certain understanding of Islam. We see it in the United States of America. If they're gonna do it here, I don't doubt they'll do it in the Arab world, man. So a lot of times when you see these changes, it's not because fundamental changes in Muslim intellectuality or scholars are abandoning, Ahlus Sunnah. It's just that the funding, man, even in America, the funding, man. If somebody comes to this, man, I'm gonna build you a $2 million masjid. I'm gonna put the imam on his salary. Daughter fatwa, daughter ifta. We're gonna put him on 90 grand salary a year, dude. Your worries are over, man. But you got to come to our
15 minutes, right? We're gonna take some questions in these last 15, no more than 20 minutes. So Imam Faheem,
just one sentence. A lot of this has to do with finance shit.
We agree, but here's my point. What we got to be concerned with, could y'all get the questions? If we got questions there, Imam Faheem and Imam Naeem. Here's the question, what I'm saying to you, Imam, and I think we just got to consider this. And I think we got to, next week, we want to continue on this topic, but we want to address specific aspects of the belief of Ahlus Sunnah so that our people know.
I think that's good.
Right? That's good. Because what happens is this.
That makes sense.
If you don't address it in our community, so many people are misguided by these ideas, and there is no alternative. I remember a guy was talking, and a famous sheikh, I don't need to mention his name, he said that 90% of the major Islamic centers in America are influenced by Wahhabism. And they got mad at him for that.
No, that's statistical.
Right? Am I right or wrong? Is he right?
Yeah, he's right. That's right.
So just talking about, let's boost them numbers down. He said 90%. Let's take it down. If 75% of the Islamic centers in America are influenced by Wahhabi doctrine and Wahhabi belief, we have a problem.
Yeah.
And who's going to address it if we don't? And if it's a money problem, then the only ones who are going to address it are the poor, righteous teachers.
No, I'm telling you. I mean,
you didn't catch that hip hop joke? I can't hear you.
Say it again.
I said you didn't catch that hip hop plug.
No,
I said if 90% of the Islamic centers are approaching Wahhabi doctrine, and the reason is money, the only people who can change it are the poor righteous teachers.
The 5%ers, know what I mean? We study
All right, we got
120.
questions. Let's take them.
Okay, I seen one question in the private chat. It says, but didn't Allah say he descended from above the seven heavens in the third night? And this is why it's important to understand this stuff, because we believe about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he is unique in his that, his sifat, and his af'al. He's unique in his essence and his attributes and in his actions. So he's not like the creation that he moved from one place to another place. But that's it, you know, you move and you settle somewhere, that is an attribute of the creation. So when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know that he's absolutely unique, and he's absolutely dissimilar to anything happening to him or anything that happens. Then it can't be a literal, because this is one of the things we have to counter with Wahhabis. They automatically assume that these attributes are literal. Because you say if Allah moves or descends from one place to another and you assume it's literal, then you just say, but we don't know how it does. You already assume the how when you assume literal. You see what I'm saying? And we can't, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free and clear from any of those type of things happening to him. So that was
and now here's a good thing, Imam Luqman. We got to put you to work now, because it sometimes, no, seriously, it becomes unfair to us. And knowledge is a responsibility, right? When you have knowledge, you have a responsibility. So that person asked about a hadith that is related by Imam Muslim in his Sahih, and it's talking about the attribute of an-nuzul. You have the books of the scholars of Islam, and you have the ability to read Arabic. You have the ability to explain to the people how our greatest scholars understood these things. And what is happening is they're giving in these literal translations, and they're hiding from them what the scholars said about that, right? So that's deep. When you have the ability to say, no, that is not what that means. That is not what the scholars said about it. That is not how they understood it. It's in your hands and my hands, and those who have the ability, right, to translate, because we can take our people to another stage of learning. We can't have, like others have done to us, they got the knowledge, but they didn't give it to us. Oh, y'all little people just stay down there. No, we should level the playing field, right? Don't tell me that we have the knowledge and now we don't give it to our people. We got the knowledge. It's an obligation to explain it to the people. Your microphone is on mute.
Sure, that's the exact reason why I'm a imam with the people, man. I've always been amongst the people, man, and around the people, on the street with the people, so that we can teach and learn, you know, and be amongst our people, man. It's just that, you know, I mean, alhamdulillah. Personally, I really haven't too much. I don't really get too much flack from these Salafi guys, man. Even from their shuyukh, I just don't. Ever since I wrote that book, I have had some scholars from Medina contacting me about writing, you know. But you know, I never had it. I mean, we have some here in Toledo. Some of them come to the Masjid. They don't come to argue. They come to listen. And some of them say, hey, you know what, sir? I used to believe this, but you know, I'm gonna listen to the khutbah and blah, blah. And so that's my approach with the Salafi. I don't argue with them. And when I was in Philly, they would come to the Masjid. They just wouldn't come with that stuff. They would start it, and you know, they basically, you know, because I still think that most of these Salafi dudes, man, I think they're sincere, man. I just think that we got other powers who have interjected themselves into our situational reality, into our masajid, into our thinking. You can go to any Muslim bookstore and you got all these books, man. I still think we should sue these jokers, man, because they deal with so much money. We can put out little fires here and there. And like, listen, I thought that I thought the Salafism was done. I'm like, I said, okay, it's about done. It's about, and then I turn around, then niggas, it's like what? People still, I want a husband on her. So I mean, people still talking that. People still got the bit. Oh man,
You know why? Imam Luqman?
I thought it was done.
Because we have never fully addressed those issues. We haven't addressed it. That's why they're still available. And if you don't never address it, then it's going to remain. Go ahead, Imam Faheem, question.
I'm going to answer a question, but just real quick, because one of the things that helped me out and what I was disappointed once I learned is that the silence of Ahlus Sunnah. The silence, because when I remember I think it's your nephew, Abdullah Sandalani. Yeah, I remember he was smashing Salafis back in 95, and I was like a hardcore Salafi. But I had enough sense to know, like, let me hear what somebody's talking about. Like, I'm gonna make my own, I'm gonna formulate my own opinion. I'll listen to anybody. So when I heard him, and I was like, yo, this boy is pretty nice. I mean, he's a one-man band. And come to find out, he was that dude, but everybody else is saying, like, you know what I mean? He was a deviant, he was an Ashari's a deviant. And I just think now, had I heard more from Ahlus Sunnah, this thing would have, went way different. You know what I mean? And then I see the scholars who are ahead of the curve, like Sheikh Nur Hamid. He smashed them right from the very beginning. Like he crushed them.
But he was even I hear you. But even in this case of my nephew, right?
But let me ask this question.
He got backing. Niggas know not to mess with him either.
Yeah, they but imagine
they know that.
But imagine if we would have had 10 like him in this area. Yeah. And there are 10 or more in this area like him. There are more, there are some like him. But let's answer this question real quick, if you don't mind, Imam.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'm just saying.
How do we have this discussion when our imams have such a volatile discussion? This topic has caused wars throughout the years. Yeah, it's true. You have to gauge yourself. If you're not really up for the discussion, then don't enter it. Yeah, I mean, if you're not up for discussion, because sometimes these things can get detailed. Sometimes it's a simple redirecting somebody's thought process and let them have their own sahwa, their own awakening. You have to determine. But if you're not equipped, just say, let me find somebody who can do it for you. Because like Imam Luqman said, I understand this point. Everybody's not equipped to even discuss some of these basic things, because the basic things been made to look complex because of the onslaught. I mean, we still got people thinking that Medina University is the standard. My mom is on Medina University. If Medina University was a person, it would be my big brother. I mean, so, and you talk Al-Azhar, people like, I don't know, man. And Al-Azhar is the standard, So, but that question.
Let me say something about that, Imam Faheem. And I wanted to, for us, and that's why, and this is specific to African Americans, right? I'm going to share something to you. For us, African Americans, I can't speak about everyone else. Everyone else might been affected, but I'm speaking specifically to us. We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run them up, whatever it goes. We've been lied to.
They got us. They got us good.
And we, therefore, all of us are victims of that in our Islamic journey. So even when you're talking to the other, like me, I talk to some head Wahhabi man. I think y'all need to stop saying Salafi. That's one of the big problems. Wahhabi, period.
Yeah, I gotta change the title of my book, man. The book is called Salafi.
Nah, for real, that's a problem. Stop saying Salafi. They are the Wahhabis. That's who they are. That's a problem, because you buying into the lie when you say Salafi. I'm not insulting you. That's what y'all really called, Wahhabi. Let's just keep it real. I'm not insulting you. I'm not calling you a name. That is what you call yourself. And you changing it to hoodwink people. We can't keep getting hoodwinked, right? Period. I'm just saying that point. I'm not insulting you, right? Because you don't, if I say Salafi, right? You follow who? Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. That's what they call his followers, Wahhabi. That's what they're known as in Islamic history. So no more playing games. No such thing as a Salafi. If you want to say I follow the Salaf Salih, okay, you follow the Salaf Salih. But Salafi is an innovative term that you made to hide your true identity. We're not going for that. Wahhabi. All right, with that said, if the person knew that this is the Wahhabi creed, not the Salaf. Most black people think when they hear Salafi, they think they're following the way of the Salaf, a Salih. And this is false. So we got to correct that, right? You're not following the Salaf. You're following Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. That's a big difference. It's a 1,200-year difference or a little less.
It's some shubha though. It's
cloudy. It's Wahhabi. Stop.
It's cloudy.
Let's keep it real.
We got another question,
Okay,
man.
let me finish my last point. With that said, we should be merciful to each other because we all been hoodwinked. We know it. I ain't mad at you. I know you don't understand. But our job is to try to make you understand, to help you understand. I give you an example. If I say I was an Ansar, only one gonna make fun of me is Farouk right now. Right? But you would say that was a deviant group, Dr. York, blah, 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 blah. But you still following Wahhabism and you won't make fun of that. You're still a Wahhabi. Deviant, misguided. Why is you so different? But no one will address that. In fact, you start trying to make an excuse for your deviance. But if you make an excuse for this deviance, why you don't make an excuse for that deviance?
But let me tell you something. Wahhabis are very
clever in disguising their bad belief. That's what you're getting ready to tell me.
No, they're very teachable. So you don't want to alienate people because a lot of these people.
I was an answer. I was teachable too.
Huh?
I was teachable.
No,
Faheem.
But because just like Imam said before, or you said before, that's the go-to deen. That's like Wahhabi by default, Salafi by default. So a lot of these guys in system, they don't know, man. They just trying to get out from Jahiliyyah, man.
And right, so we understand that, but we're going to teach them. That's it. We're going to teach them. Yeah. Go ahead, Sayyidi.
We do, at least I do, and I know the other imams do. We make the distinction between the callers and the regular people. And for me, the concentration is on the regular people. But sometimes we do got to address those people because, there's some platforms, they're calling us out by name.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, they're calling us. I've been called a deviant 20 years, man. None of them say it to my face, but when we were like, okay, let's discuss it. Why am I deviant? Explain. And that's the word I use, explain. And then they be, dumbfounded. But that's neither here nor there. But
they don't call me out though, man. I'm gonna tell you a secret, right? I know some of these Salafis from way back. Imam Dawud Deed, for example, that's my homie from way before he was a Salafi. Way back, we was homies. Seriously, we were tight. And one time people came to him, and I still consider him my friend, and came in and he said, what about Imam Luqman? He says, I'm not going to talk about Imam Luqman. And we had an understanding with some of these Salafis. I know some of these Salafi boys from Philly, man. I know him when they was in the dunya, man, before he was on nothing. Seriously, a lot of them I gave shahada to. And so I didn't have the problem with him like that. I never had that kind of problem. A lot of Salafis.
We shouldn't have a problem with our own people. We should have a problem with the doctrine that was imposed on our people.
Yeah.
I don't got no problem. Like I said, I know Wahhabi guys, imams and sheikhs. I like them as people. I just don't accept their doctrine. I like you as a person.
I got Wahhabis from my neighborhood. We grew up in the neighborhood, man.
What you got in your neighborhood?
Huh?
What you got in your neighborhood?
There are Salafi dudes now. there are
Go ahead.
Salafis who are
Go ahead.
from
Go
the
ahead, Imam
neighborhood
Faheem.
that I grew up in my neighborhood. So my position with them has always been kind of like an alliance, man. Like I guess dudes I know before you was even I knew you back on the block before you was a Wahhabi, before you was a Muslim. So we've always had kind of an understanding like that.
Go ahead,
We always
Imam
had.
Faheem.
There's a question. It says, so should we be conducting da'wah to those that practice Wahhabism, given the 90% and the potential extinction of Black Muslims? How do we strategize to eradicate that doctrine? Well, one of the ways,
I say this, Imam Faheem, education, fearless, merciful education.
Pay that money.
Yes, that's the same thing I was going to say. If you listen to Imam Amin on the post-Fajr reflections, he was saying that, the more of us that are able to do this work, it makes it easier. So we all have to know, if we have a desire to give da'wah to those people and guide them, we got to know what we're talking about. We got to know how to articulate, and you got to know how to read people. You know what I mean? You got to know where a person is. Are they ignorant? Are they asking questions to be smart, be facetious, to be sarcastic? Or do they really want to know? Or are they just trying to get information to go back and report to you? You got agent provocateurs. You got all types of stuff. So you got to be well equipped to know how to deal with people. But when you see somebody that's hungry and sincere, make sure you know your stuff so you can tell them. Because the ultimate goal is not to really argue about this and not make wars, but we want to educate and clarify for people and, help them to not go wrong where some of us have went wrong. I don't want nobody to go through what I went through with the Salafis, man, and my whole name being thrown. Even today, somebody see me and then they find out it's Imam Faheem, their whole face turn. I could give them $1,000 and give them money and food and a welcome feeling, but then they find out it's me, their whole thing changed because of that kind of stuff, man. And that's Wahhabism, to be at war with the Muslims over technicalities. That's Wahhabism, so we got to know who we talking to and start with our families and our close ones, you know what I mean? So that's come on, Imam Naeem.
Oh, can I take this question, Imam Faheem?
Go ahead.
All right. This is a good question. He said, you mentioned that the Ash'aris and Maturidi are the only Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Where does this place Hanbalis? I feel a little confused. Barakallahu feek. I'm going to answer that. When we talk about Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the Ash'ariyah and Maturidiyah, their creed, whether you said I'm Ash'ari or Maturidi, is what we're not talking about necessarily the name, the creed. The reason why many of the Hanabila, especially among those early Hanabila, were those who were affected by the concepts of tashbih and tajseem, by likening Allah to his creation and giving him attributes of bodies. So hence, many of those Hanbalis that people use, the modern day Wahhabis or so-called Atharis, are from the Mujassima and the Mushabbiha, those who liken Allah to the creation or give Allah attributes of body attributes. They were from the Hanabila. So you got to distinguish between the virtuous Hanbalis and those Hanbalis who carried bad belief. The Wahhabiyya, so-called Salafiyya, take their bad ideas from those early Hanabila. So when we talk about Hanbalis, you have to distinguish those Hanbalis who had the creed of Ahlus Sunnah from those vast majority of them who followed the belief of the Mujassima and Mushabbiya among them. So that is the answer to that question.
Imam, I mean, a follow-up question to that same question. Someone living nowadays, 2020, 1442, how will we be able to distinguish between the rightly guided Hanbalis versus, the Wahhabis in Hanbali clothing?
There is a book written by Imam Ibn Jawzi, who was an Hanbali scholar, and he wrote about this issue. And I believe it's translated in English.
Which book is that?
Dafu Shubha Tashbih.
The attributes of God.
It translated as the attributes of God.
I said it.
I haven't read the English translation, and I hope that it's not a apologetic translation, right? I haven't read it, so I don't know. But that book
It's not.
is not an apologetic translation. All right, then that's
Not
good.
like from it.
All right, if you read it, and it is going to be a book we're going to read later. That book clearly distinguished the madhab of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and those Mujassima and Mushabbiha who claim to be Hanbali. So if you wanted an English reference, that book would be good. Problem, and I must say this, a lot of times translators of books, they don't stick to the books they translate for political reasons, and they take these approaches. But the authors, the original authors, were clear in their stance. And I'll say that.
I used to be a Hanbali back in the day.
I would say really. I would just say if you unless you.
I love you too,
I
man.
would say, unless you just have Hanbali teachers in your area, you need to you got to try the other two schools, because I was reading a debate today on Facebook, and these are all Hanbalis and, mixed up with Salafis and Wahhabis. And so one brother, he's like a student of knowledge, but he's like a Wahhabi, but he's kind of open. And he said the majority of the Hanabila accepted the concept of tafweed, which is tafweed is like, to accept the meaning, the wording of Allah, the meanings, and what they mean, you leave it to Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you go on there, he got all types of comments, ridiculous, saying that, Ash'aris and Maturidas, we're deniers of the attributes, all type. So they argue amongst themselves, and that shows you the importance of talking about this topic, because they amongst themselves, not knowing if they Wahhabi, pseudo-Salafis, now they want to try to accept the Hanbali school. They never been trained in the Hanbali school, or they get a training like we're going to approach the Hanbali school, but we still got the Salafi mindset that we're going to correct the opinions of the Hanabila. 400,000 imams came through that school. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to check them. And some of them still Hanbali school with that mindset. You know what I mean? I've seen them do it. Oh yeah, the Sheikh said this, but this is the proof on it.
But I never see Shafi'is argue like that. I never see
because Shafi'is are all Ahlus Sunnah. All the Shafi'is
Come to the
are
Shafi'i school, man.
Shafi'i Ash'ari, Maliki Ash'ari, Hanafi Maturidi, Hanbali, question mark, Wahhabi, Salafi, so-called Athari, not real Ahlus Sunnah people. They use the Hanbali madhab, and they have Wahhabi Aqidah. Don't be fooled. When a person, all you got to say, when someone talking about their Hanbali, as soon as they start quoting Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, Al-Albani, Bin Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, they are Wahhabi, not Hanbali. So that's the catch. This is a big game that's being played. We need to go back to that nation of Islam saying, can a Muslim be fooled now? Not nowadays. Not right? No more tricking us. When you say Hanbali and you start quoting Ibn Taymiyyah and Bin Baz and Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn Abi al-Iz and all of these people, you are a Wahhabi. Not
no, man, Ibn Taymiyyah, come on, man.
Ibn Taymiyyah had the bad belief. The ulama of Islam said it. Wait a minute. Here, when you say listen, Imam Luqman.
They arrested him.
They arrested him for what?
They arrested him for what they said was tashbih. But if you look at the bulk of Ibn Taymiyyah's work, man,
that's not why they arrested Ibn Taymiyyah. They didn't arrest him for tashbih. That's not why they arrested him.
He stepped down the stairs. He said, Allah descends like I descend down these stairs.
That's not why they arrested him. They didn't put him in jail for that.
Huh?
They didn't put him in jail for that.
They arrested him right afterwards. Right after he did it.
They put him in jail for his beliefs on a tawassul and things like that. That's why they put him in jail. Those other things became known about him after his life, after he died.
No, he was put in jail a couple of times. When he said that, they locked him up again.
Imam Luqman, these books are very clear. If you go to the books of history and explain the problem of Ibn Taymiyyah, when the judges of all four madhahib put him in prison, it was for these issues. And the other issues, he denied them. But this issue, even if you read Fathul Bari, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani mentioned these as his ugly issues from him. That's what they kept him in prison for. Interestingly so. Those other issues, I'll give you the books to read. I'm telling you, right? Ibn Hajar.
I would never speak against Ibn Taymiyyah.
I mean, this is the traces, and I'm gonna be honest. And you not you specifically, you my elder, I love you. But we talking about education here. We talking about knowledge. Ibn Taymiyyah is the forefather of the Wahhabi belief. That's where they get it from. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab took those ideas of Ibn Taymiyyah. And how do we make Ibn Taymiyyah over all the thousands of scholars that were in the Ummah in his time?
I prefer to say what Zahabi, but remember Zahabi, who's a Shafi'i, what he said about Ibn Taymiyyah.
What he said?
He said that his knowledge exceeded his intellect.
Right.
That's what he said.
And do you know Ibn al-Zahabi wrote Nasihat al-Zahabi? He wrote the advice of al-Zahabi to Ibn Taymiyyah and explaining his misguidances. He himself. So what I'm saying about Ibn Taymiyyah is the forerunner of the beliefs of the Wahhabis.
I just don't believe in this.
He created two of the three Tawheeds.
Yeah, but I don't believe
for a reason.
I just don't believe in disparaging scholars who made more contributions to Islam that I could make in 100 lifetimes, in terms of fiqh, in terms of usul, in terms of ilm al-kalam, in terms of mantaq, in terms even in aqidah. I mean, subhanAllah, even if some people say he did it, you know, because we still go back to the hadith that properly said, he said, لا تصب الأموات فإنهم قد أفضوا إلى ما قدموا. You know,
but no one's cursing. To say someone was error, said someone's wrong, who cursed him? No one's cursing Ibn Taymiyyah. We say he was wrong. He was misguided in tenets of faith. No one's talking about fiqh rulings. If you want to talk about fiqh rulings, listen. Ibn Taymiyyah in fiqh, he said that 3 divorces at one time only counts as 1 divorce, which goes against the consensus of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah among the Hanabila, among the
somebody Shafi'i say that.
No Shafi'i say that. Where you get that from?
That is a Shafi'i. That is one's a Shafi'i opinion.
What book Shafi'i books you reading?
I'm gonna look up in the one what they got right on the show.
Don't waste your time. That's not there. I'm telling you.
I'm
Shafi'i. I'm Shafi'i, Luqman. I'm Shafi'i, Luqman. That is a consensus of that is an issue of ijma. 3 divorces pronounced at one time is 3 final divorces. The only one who contradicted that was Ibn Taymiyyah. I'm Shafi'i. I've read all of the Shafi'i major books in this issue. No,
I'm going to check that. I remember distinctly and dealing with that.
Fiqh Sunnah is not a Shafi'i book.
Well, Fiqh Sunnah, no, Imam, listen, I studied with him, and he is a Shafi'i.
Fiqh Sunnah is not a Shafi'i book. Nowhere in the world, if you study Shafi'i fiqh, are you going to study Fiqh Sunnah? Nowhere.
Sure. Why not? Yeah. Hundreds of thousands of people. Listen.
No, listen.
No, I
listen. Go to any Shafi'i curriculum. The tartib of dirasa, the fiqh Shafi'i will not include fiqh Sunnah. Nowhere in the planet.
Because it came at such later state. But you have differences. I've been in Shafi'i for about 30 years. You have differences in Shafi'i schools on so many positions.
But that ain't one of them.
If you look at
that's not one of them.
If you look at Tanbih, I'm a Shafi'i. If you look at Reliance of the Traveler, that's not a Mu'tamid Shafi'i book. It's a Shafi'i book, and you see differences in that. You see differences in the
Imam, stop. They might not think you Shafi'i after you say that.
I don't care what they think. I'm just saying, man.
Kitabun Mu'tamidun fi fiqh Shafi'i. What are you talking about?
In Umdat al-Salik, you have the difference with the greater madhab of Imam al-Shafi'i.
Very few, and they're pointed out. Very few.
What I'm saying is that the body
less
of
than
Islamic
16 issues.
No, I disagree.
Less than 16.
I disagree.
I'm a Shafi'i.
The body of Islamic work is so extensive. Is so extensive, and it made room for even within the madhab. You have some things that's more timid of the madhab, and you have something that's maybe shad in that method, or maybe disagree. There's no one method. There's no one method. No, man. There's no one madhab where everybody agrees.
Imam Luqman. Listen, after we finish, I'm going to point you to the cases. I told you, this is a case of consensus, not just in the Shafi'i school, in the Maliki school, in the Hanafi school, and the Hanbali school. Ibn Taymiyyah in this issue contradicted al-ijma' of all schools. That's why even in Saudi Arabia, who followed the Hanbali opinion, they rejected that fatwa of Ibn Taymiyyah as contradicting the Hanbali school. It's not something that I'm talking. This is something in the books of fiqh that can be proven. And definitely that don't fly in the Shafi'i school.
I'm not so sure, shit.
Okay, go look. We that's for next week's research.
I'm not so sure, man. No, man, you're talking too broad. It's too broad of a topic. Fiqh is too broad of a topic, especially on that. Especially the issue of marriage and divorce.
Real issue wasn't the fiqh. I mean, he broke ijma' like 60 issues.
Some of them in usul and some of them in furu'.
He broke ijma' in the area of safar, in the area of travel, hadd safar. In his treatise on the traveler, man. He went against all the schools.
But that's not acceptable.
Huh?
That's not
acceptable.
You say it's not acceptable. I
none of this that is acceptable.
Listen. We are not bound to follow the four schools by the letter. We are not. We're bound to obey Allah and His Messenger.
Oh my goodness!
I disagree. Totally.
We're gonna stop.
I totally disagree. You cannot say a person will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he gonna ask him, okay, which of the four schools did you follow? Oh, if you ain't following it, no, I disagree. Disagree, man. Disagree. We are bound by follow Kitab and Sunnah.
Hey, wait a minute.
How do you do that?
Let me ask Imam. How do you do that? We're having a talk. Imam Luqman, I want to share something because we got to stop.
Man,
but Imam Luqman, don't say nah.
Convince me that, man.
Imam Luqman.
No.
I love you so much. You're my man.
And I follow Shafi'i fiqh. But if a person comes
You
to
follow
me, they
Shafi'i
don't
fiqh. No Shafi'i says that.
and if,
You know that.
and if I don't care. I don't care. I don't
No,
care.
no Shafi'i says that.
If a Muslim came to me and said, I don't follow no madhab, I just try to practice my religion, man. I can't say, oh, you know what? You wrong because you ain't. No, man. That's bull, man. That is crap.
But that's not.
Hold on,
That's
I
not.
missed
That's not
something.
what we saying.
I
That's
missed
not
something.
what we
How we
saying,
go
man.
from breaking ijma to following the madhab?
That's not what we. That's not what we saying, man.
That's what I mean saying, man.
Yeah, that is what I mean saying. You're right about that. If a
No.
person doesn't follow the madhab, a madhab,
No
that
way.
person will
Is it
make
straight?
major mistakes in their acts of worship. As for them being saved in the hereafter, that is a law. We're talking about the rules of the religion.
I disagree. I disagree, man. I disagree with you on that.
Let me ask you a question,
Put the link.
Imam
Put the
Luqman.
money. Put the money link up.
Hold
it's
up.
time for the money link.
In the disagreement, Imam Luqman, let me share something with you.
I disagree. There's no way I'm
Time
going to
for
say
the,
that.
time for the
Too
money
many,
link.
You're
too
telling
many
me
Muslims,
the
too many
person-
Muslims have come and they have prayed right. And they pray simply. And they pray all their lives. We have shuyukh in Philadelphia and other places who died, who prayed their whole life, man. 5 prayers a day, man. Simple prayer. Fatiha, did the afkar, and they want to make a bunch of it. They prayed their ibadah simply. And didn't
All right,
follow
we'll come back. We'll come back to that, Imam Luqman.
Nah.
We'll come back tomorrow or next week on that. But we know next week. But what I would ask us,
I'm going to check the thing about. I'm going to check the
unfortunately-
thing about the divorces, though.
Huh?
I'm going to check the thing about the divorces.
No, I'm gonna help you. I'm
If
help
I'm
you.
wrong,
I'm
if I'm wrong, you know if I'm really wrong,
I know, don't worry. Next week you'll come back and say I made a mistake. That's all right. It's fine. We brothers, right? We don't got no problem with that. I'm going to show you. Don't worry about it. You ain't even got to go research. I'm gonna show you in the books. I'm gonna send you the pictures. I'm gonna point to the books.
Just text me.
I gave you those books for a reason.
Text me. Tell me the page.
But guess what? No. Here's where we at. We at love again. We always end with love, right?
Alhamdulillah.
All right, Imam Faheem, close us out.
You said me?
Yeah, we'll close us out. Unless you want to give the OG to close us out.
Yeah, the OG gets it.
All right, go ahead, Imam Luqman.
ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا.
Hold on 1 second. Let's let everybody know, just in closing, this is the Black Man's Roundtable. We brothers, we love each other, we disagree, but we have real talks, right? And inshallah, we're going to continue. We're going to bring to life these conversations that are important, and we're going to go have a good meal and brotherly love after it's all said and done. But in everything, we learn as we go. We'll learn, and we'll
listen. I got a question because today was my daughter's birthday and we went to Chuck E. Cheese. Is Chuck E. Cheese halal?
Not according to my mother-in-law. All that pork dripping from the top on your pizza.
We had fun too up in that joint, man. Alhamdulillah.
Close it out, Imam Luqman.
ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات وألف بين قلوبنا واجعل في قلوبنا الإيمان والحكمة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين ونصلي ونسلم ونبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.
Next week. Shukran.
Text me that page and number, man.
Don't worry, you got it. It's coming to you.
I mean, seriously, text it. And if I'm wrong, I'm gonna come out next week. All
right. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.